Hello, good people. It's Eric Taylor, BigEAstrology, about to continue my Celebrity Birth Chart series, RIP to Jimmy Buffett, but today I'm going to do Sinead O'Conner. Just the research for it alone could bring a tear to a brother's eyes. Crazy, emotional. Nothing compares. I know Prince wrote it, but she sang the heck out of that song and was thinking about her mom and just, wow. 4 marriages, 4 kids, 4 siblings. She was one of 5, but then had 3 step siblings and then 1 half sibling. Okay, so a total of 9. Wow. Mary and John were the parents. Born in 1966. R.I.P. Sinead O'Conner. I hope I do you justice. The Sag rising, Sag sun, and the Scorpio moon. Very, very powerful and emotional. She was talented. 10 albums. Tons of abuse from her mother. Physical, emotional, raped, sexual. It's heartbreaking. But we honor her. And I'm going to try to do my best to honor her through this natal birth chart reading of the legendary Sinead O'Conner. All right? BigEAstrology. Peace. Yo, you know what it is. BigEAstrology back doing celebrity charts. This one's emotional, but we're going to get right into it. Not going to make it extremely long, but I want to get into the gist of this amazing artist. And I still remember the first time I heard her voice, her music, her song, and just, wow. Sinead O'Conner was something else. What is it? Sinead Marie Bridget O'Connor or something. 66 to 2023, died at age 56. And my heart just goes out to her family. And she was a legend, but I think she's resting in power now, because she definitely had a challenging life and childhood. And she's with her oldest son, Shane, hopefully resting in power in heaven. All right? BigEAstrology, let's get to Sinead's birth chart. All right, Miss Sinead O'Conner, right? Born in Ireland, 1966. December, 3rd? December 10th. Anyway, Sinead O'Conner is the Sagittarius rising with the Scorpio moon and Sagittarius sun in the first house. And it's in conjunction with Venus. And this is in the lunar mansion of Venus. But we look at the chart ruler first, Jupiter. We see Jupiter over here, okay, in Leo, all right, which can tend to do pretty well. Remember, I just recently did a video about Jupiter doing well in Sagittarius, Pisces, Cancer, Aquarius, and Leo. The benefic planet does well in like 5 signs. So this is her chart ruler. So this shows the theme of life of having abundance, fortune, expansion through entertainment. She was married to that. Her father's teachings, even though they were divorced. So her father's was John, mother Mary. She had 4 siblings. Then she had 1 half brother from her father and stepmother. And then she also had step siblings, another 3. So basically a total of, she was one of 9 when it all came down to it. But in terms of blood, she was one of 6, okay? She had 2 brothers, 2 sisters. She was married 4 times, had 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, okay? So that's the chart ruler, Jupiter over there in Leo. and it's the ascendant is more in a trine to the Jupiter. Sinead was very much about kind of preaching and teaching, sharing her beliefs. She became a Muslim, but she was into the Rastafarian, the I in myself, connected to God, speaking to the I in you. I saw a great interview, her talking about that she really respected the Rasta culture. Now, the Sagittarius Ascendant, it can be a little dogmatic. This sun kind of burns out the Venus in terms of the relationship with the father, which is kind of an indication of the divorce. And then, you could see the Scorpio Moon conjunct Mercury here in the 12th house with the Neptune. They're all in the lunar mansion, also known as the nakshatra of Mercury, the end of the water sign. So by nature, she was an investigator. She was a researcher. She wanted to really know the truth. And she had to speak the truth, which is why you saw the whole thing with the SNL and the Pope, her doing that, because she understood about the Catholic Church and what the Pope was really representing, and just the whole, I'm not going to get into all of it, but just, things about the secrets and secret societies, and also, stuff with the Catholic Church with the children. Okay. Sex trafficking and sexual abuse. Now, she herself was abused so much. I even saw an interview with her and Dr. Phil, and she almost had like the Stockholm syndrome, because she loved her mother so much and wished her mother died when she was 18 in a car crash. Okay. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So at the 7th house, right? The other half. And Gemini is transportation vehicles, right? Venus, but also Gemini 3rd house. So her mother died when she was 18. And she was basically saying to Dr. Phil, she wished that, she could just love her mother and give her a hug. Her mother was, as you see here with the Scorpio Moon, very intense and abusive. Here's the bed pleasures. Her mother physically, emotionally, and sexually abused her, and would kick her in her ovaries and make her cut her hair. Now, it's so funny because doing the research, the Sagittarius, the Sun, and the Venus here would be an indicator of losing hair and having a short haircut, which she had, ironically, right? And then she didn't want to feel beautiful. The record label was trying to get her to wear dresses, grow her hair out, and she didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? She always kept that buzz cut, had the beautiful eyes, and it speaks to that with the sun on the ascendant. Early on in life, you could be a little self-centered, but she was in survival mode, okay? She basically, when the parents got divorced, the kids were upset, and her mother was like angry at the kids for being sad and upset, and she made them live outside in the shed for, she said, around 5 or 6 months. I mean, could you imagine? So at age 13, when her mother was like in the hospital or something, she ran away, right? And then she went to this place, I guess in Ireland, where, runaways and people could go. And that's where she got a guitar and started playing music. But she mentioned that like in Christmas, like at her grandparents' house, the piano would be talking to her, and it was just asking her to play it. That it held the stories and the sorrows of the family and all this stuff. You know what I mean? It's so deep, but she was so musically gifted. But this right here speaks to the part of fortune. And at the same time, what's fascinating is when she first came out and did everything. Okay, so let me get back to the Saturday Night Live. This was before her 26th birthday, so it was age 25. And it's what? Capricorn, the structures. She spoke out against the Pope and the structures and the systems, right? And that was the part of fortune. It can be spiritual, financial blessings. Well, it didn't give her financial blessings. It may have like limited and ruined her career. But for her, it was spiritual. She felt like it was the thing that she had to do, okay? She was definitely someone who was a truth speaker. and 56 years old, her passing. Well, let me get to the album. Okay, the first album came out when she was 21. That's the 10th house. So the midheaven's here, but this is the legacy, the public image, right? Virgo, Pluto, Uranus, right? She was seen as someone who was very innovative and a rebel. Sinead O'Conner, you can, like quotations, think of her as definitely the rebel. But this Sun conjunct the Venus, when you have Venus on ascendant, you are very much about, and especially in this lunar mansion of Venus, entertainment, performing, arts, culture, bringing pleasure and beauty. She was extremely creative, okay? And that was pleasing to her ego and her identity, okay? She was really trying to heal all the wounds in the subconscious mind. The mother really messed her up mentally and emotionally. But this is what she chose to learn, these karmic lessons. Something happened with her at birth is why she has the Scorpio moon. So either mom was, preeclamptic or breech or, some sort of thing happened. But when you have that Scorpio moon in the 12th house and you have it in the lunar mansion of the Mercury with the Mercury, it can show the intensity and the physical abuse, the sexual abuse. All right. And she spoke about it quite often. Venus and Sag, it's exalted in Pisces. It's at home and, Taurus and Libra. It doesn't love being in Sag, but it does well on the ascendant. And it speaks to, her creativity. And what's fascinating, it's not in an exact trine, but she has the Lilith in the 5th house. So this is speaking to the dating, romance, fun, sex. And she got married, 4 times, but the first one was at 21. And I think soon after she had her son, Shane. So this was the transformation, okay? And, one thing about Sinead, she never really found, and I think the first marriage only lasted for 4 years, okay? And there was so much internal pain, but there was that protection energy. She was very protective of her own children, but then very protective of even her abusers. And she said she was also sexually assaulted by other people in Ireland, not just her mother, from ages 3 to 13. Okay. Or maybe 3 to 9, because she left, went to her father's, came back, and then went to the girls' home or whatever. Then she moved to her father's. Her father was upset, so that she had a nose ring at 15, but he got her an apartment at age 16, right? So here's 12, 13, when you're doing annual protections, 14, 15, 16, 5th house, right? So that's the high school years. So she actually was living her own at 16. He got the apartment, but she had to get a job. Right. So then that's when she started to getting into the performing and doing odd jobs. So then at 21, boom, she comes out and she's, pretty successful. Okay. But it wasn't until 25 when she, really hit and was doing Nothing Compares to You, written by Prince. But for her, she was directing that towards her mother. Okay. And even in the Dr. Phil interview, she was talking about when he asked her, when you tore up the picture of the Pope, who was that for? And she was like, oh, it was about the Pope. And he's like, well, on a deeper level. And she was like, oh, my father. You know what I mean? Because I think the father leaving, the divorce made her feel abandoned. She was very close to her father. And I think it was very hurtful. But she said that her and the brother, they left to go live with the father and then came back home because they missed their mom, which is wild, right? Because she missed the controlling, the abuse. Sinead mentioned, and you guys, I know I'm kind of jumping or whatever, but it was actually, I'm not gonna lie, I felt sad and depressed because I didn't know all this about her. And I was like, oh my God, her life was horrendous and terrible. God bless her. It was just, so But obviously, the part of fortune in the second house is dealing with the speech. Now, you know, she was very slender and skinny, right? So that's the Capricorn. In terms of food, she wasn't, you know, anybody who was obese or anything like that. The Aquarius third house, dealing with the siblings, speaks to the half and the step siblings. Okay. You know, and think it also speaks to the detachment from having the mother around as when she was the adult. Now, doesn't mean all Sag risings are going to have their mother die once they're, you know, 26 years old. Her mother died at 18, but in a car crash. But, you know, it can separate the relationship. I know some Sag risings who, growing up as adults, didn't have the best relationships with their mothers. But it all depends on everybody's chart, okay? So when you look at this fourth house, right, middle school, and the internal mind, the roots, the ancestors, the mother, right, childhood home, adult home, retirement home, you have the Pisces. So it speaks to her taking the medicines. They're saying when she died at age 56, that it was more not a suicide, that it had more to do with her and, you know, all her medicines that she was taking, you know. And I know she was on Facebook Live and different things with her fans, and there's just so much there. I don't know if we'll really uncover what really happened, but the authorities said there was no foul play. But, you know, the first house is 48 years old, so 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. So that sixth, yeah, you know, 56, she died, right, in the ninth house, the Leo. And maybe it had to do with her heart, you know, and all the medicine, you know, and the pressures of entertainment. I mean, 10 albums. And then she also wanted to use an alias. I don't know if she recorded under that alias, but here's the Chiron wound and the Saturn. This shows you all you need to know. 21, 3 years old. And maybe there was issues with the first marriage at age 21 in her adult home. But that 21 is 3 years old. She said she started to get abused by her mother and others as well, from 3 to 9. It finally stopped, she said, around 13. Okay. So there's that Chiron wound, Pisces, the deception, the confusion, the bed pleasures, the abuse, right? It put her in a fog. And then Saturn in Pisces, right? She would be going through her Saturn return. And she started it, but she passed away during her Saturn return in Pisces, probably due to the medicine. Pisces is disease, Pluto's virus. Okay. She was bipolar, and, you know, that can, with the medicines and stuff, it can be very intense. Now, the Lilith and Aries, I don't, look, you're going to know that when you have the Lilith in the fifth house, through the stage performing, through your self-expression, you can be rejected. You can have people not want to hear your truth. Her people, her tribe, are the Aries people who are leaders, brave, courageous. Sinead O'Conner was super courageous and brave. I mean, I couldn't believe. She said she was planning it for weeks to tear up the Pope's picture in Saturday Night Live. And when she did it, I mean, her manager stopped talking to her for 3 days. She said, you know, it was just like everybody was like blown away. Nobody had done anything like that. And it was huge. She was the first artist to rebel and protest like that, like in a big, big way, live on television. You had other artists who did protests and were part of the 60s and different things, but I mean, not live on TV like that. You know, Kanye West did it later, you know, with Katrina. George Bush doesn't like black people. But Sinead, I mean, boy, she went in. And for it to be a religious figure like the Pope, that's the Lilith and Aries. And look, Pallas Athena, how you resolve problems and dilemmas and sometimes issues with the father, right? But this is having the Lilith here, Fifth house is not just high school and college creativity, it's also your children. Now she had four, so this would be the first kid. I don't know the oldest son's Shane's birthday, but one thing that you would see, since he committed suicide, that Lilith there could be some sort of repressed, rejected energy for the first child as well. And I think she probably had some past life karmas as being some sort of medicine woman, or quote unquote witch, what she was called in those times, maybe. But Sinead was definitely, she spoke the truth about the potato famine, and really that it wasn't that. It was the British were taking all the fruit, meat, and vegetables and only left potatoes for the Irish to eat. That they were stealing the food and destroying the land in Ireland and really exporting out their food. That it was like like almost like its own little Holocaust in Ireland. Okay. Now, this North Node in Taurus, right? She just came off her nodal return in the 6th house, right? And you're dealing with the throat, and you're dealing with Taurus, the speech, and she was really devastated by the loss of her son. And, going through this nodal return for her, I think that, and then the Saturn return, Sinead, I'm not saying like that's something that would cause a death, but it's definitely something that you could see the way her chart is with the Chiron moon there and all that she had been through. She was up against it. But the Taurus North Node is also an indicator of her really finding pleasure, right, in work and service to humanity. Remember, she felt connected to donate money and raise money for the military in America and for military in Ireland, for soldiers hurt in war and stuff like that. I mean, she was something. She was so dynamic. Now, the Gemini in the 7th house, she needed communication and marriages. You know what I mean? And so I don't know how those went for her, but for marriages, you would see the 7th, the 9th, 11th, and back to the ascendant, So it'd be interesting to see what signs the husbands were, per se. When you look at her 8th house, Sinead O'Conner, having the Cancer here, she would have Cancer, Sun, Moon, risings, very sexually attracted to her. And let's not forget the Scorpio South Node, that's what separated her from the mother. We'll get to that more when we get there, okay? But, having this 8th house and dealing with, the Cancer there and the Vertex, Dog Star Sirius, she really just wanted someone that she could nurture and care for. And Sinead O'Conner really, I think the Goddess of Harvest series there, she needed herbs and plant medicine, not, Western medicine, pharmacy, pills, and drugs. Okay, that would have been more self-care and loving for her, and probably may have helped her better with all her depression and bipolar. And, listen, with all the abuse that she went through, just imagine your parents get divorced and your mother's so angry at you and there's such fear. She mentioned that her and her brother, they hated summertime because they couldn't go to school and they were trapped at home all summer getting abused and beaten every day. Okay, that just gives you an insight to the psychosis and what, as a young child, she went through. But yet she still wanted to protect the Scorpio moon, that South Node, Mercury. She wanted to protect the mother. Now, what's interesting too, so her South Node and North Node, okay, this Taurus North Node, 15, that was really, it's a separate lunar mansion from the Mercury. I think that one it could be Mars or Saturn. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, she was definitely someone that easily and she talked about it. She's like, I'm a brilliant stage performer live. And that's that Taurus North Node, 6th house, to be of service through sound, through the throat chakra, okay? Now, when you look at this 9th house, you got the Jupiter here, right? The beliefs, philosophies, but it's in Leo. So, it's almost like she had to share her beliefs and philosophies through her creative way. She said her first couple albums, they were like diaries about all of her abuse. So her creative expression, right, the 9th house is publishing, is how she published her songs and lyrics. And she wrote a lot of them. It wasn't, obviously the big hit was by Prince. And she said, this was deep, she said she had imposter syndrome. She said a lot of artists go through it. And I remember on Dr. Phil's interview, she was reading a list of all the artists who committed suicide. She's like, there's hundreds, but she read off like 30 people. Even, saying how sad it was with Whitney Houston, who I'll be probably doing her chart next. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. This one really affected me. I really enjoyed her music. I have an album or two of hers, but I definitely have the first one and used to play it all the time. And then the second marriage, 9th house, Juno. So she was definitely married to the entertainment career, recording 10 albums, but she wanted to do it her way, right? Her beliefs and philosophies. She was not gonna grow out her hair and put on a cute skirt and try to look all pretty. She was naturally pretty, but she wanted to look like a boy because her mother made her cut off her hair and look like a boy. She said her mother used to kick her in her private area and step on her and all this stuff because she didn't, it's a miracle that she was able to even have children. And then she had a hysterectomy, and then it changed her hormonally, right? Now, I'm not saying all hysterectomies are bad for women as they get older, because there's multiple reasons, right? I know my mother, people have had them, but it can affect and throw off your hormone balance. And sometimes women need estrogen, right? And so that really, I think, is something that affected her emotionally and mentally, along with her son dying, okay? And remember, it was the 8th house when angel perfection, when her son died, right? So that's a sudden event, right? 8th house is that. And so that was really heavy for her, And I think, we can all relate, if you have children, that that's something that could be more than devastating, okay? So, looking at this 9th house, looking at this 10th house, the Virgo, Pluto, Uranus. So, 65, 66, 67, or really 64 to 66, this conjunction, it's kind of like out of the conjunction here, but this Pluto-Uranus conjunction, 24, it's still in the conjunction, 24 and 20 degrees, there's definitely this energy of, and she was born to be famous, right? That's the star born, okay? So when you have Pluto in the 10th house, it could be an indicator of magnetic energy in public, legacy, right? You'll know her name forever. She's famous, but she's also famous being a rebel, being unique and weird and different, being innovative and futuristic. She said, I knew about the Pope 10, 15 years before you Americans did, right? Before all the scandals started to come out with the Catholic Church. And, she was not afraid to talk about it against the 10th house, the authority. Virgo the Virgin, there was a purity about Sinead. She was about human rights and civil rights and the rights of the people, especially in her homeland. This is, so the sun on the ascendant, right? And it's, it's close to the square in Pluto. This speaks to the transformation of the father leaving, but it also speaks to her going against the authority, going against the government, being that rebel, okay? And for her, it brought her pleasure. She was righteous in doing it. And that's kind of what you see with the Pluto in the 10th house. She was more than magnetic. But remember, with Pluto, it's learning how to surrender, to let go, let God, in the trinity of trust, right? To trust yourself and your own intuition. Learn to trust others in a healthy way. I think she had issues with that because of all the abuse, right? You're seeing you kind of do have the square, and I think that's what made her a good artist and singer. The sextile, the Uranus Mercury, and the Uranus Moon, and that also speaks to the sudden, abuse of the mom, and then the mom suddenly stopping. She said after 13, her and her mom became good friends. So you see that? I mean, that's so they only had a good relationship. I think she honestly said it, maybe it was like 14, 15, for anywhere from 3 to 5 years after all that abuse. And then her mom dies in a car crash. I mean, that was heavy. And then 3 years later, she, comes out with the first album, gets married. So Uranus and Virgo and Pluto, Sinead, in some ways was a healer, but through her service, through her music, right? Through her creative self-expression. The Venus on the ascendant, she was destined to be, someone who would share in a harmonious, pleasant way her ideologies, her beliefs, her story. Publishing, Jupiter 9th house, Leo, right? The ascendant, the sun, right? And that Jupiter's trining that ascendant. So, you know what I mean? She wanted to, through self-expression, share her wisdom, her beliefs and philosophies, and she did in a beautiful way. Now, this Libra midheaven in 11th house is what? Your hopes, dreams, and wishes. But she's got the Mars here. It's passive aggressive. Mars helped her to network and to get to, these things. But I think the Mars probably caused the separation of the third marriage, right? In Libra. But remember, it's seeking harmony, peace, and balance. But Mars in Libra is the warrior for justice, for peace and harmony. That's why she raged against the Pope. She raised up against England, spoke the truth, changed her Catholic beliefs, became a Muslim. That's like, you know what I mean? That's the 9th, 10th, and 11th house all in a nutshell. And I don't know what year she became a Muslim, but, you could see in this chart different things that would, even lead to being that rebel, the Mars sextile Jupiter. Okay. So this Libra midheaven, right? Performing, bringing peace on arenas and stages and in foreign lands. Now you could say with the Scorpio Moon in the 12th house, oh, she was into the occult and this and that. Not always. Sometimes these are people who are researchers, investigators. But what she investigated was the truth about England, about the Pope, about politics, right? She was very much about law and order and justice, political. Libra Mars, Sag Venus Sun, Scorpio Mercury Neptune, Moon, Mercury Neptune Scorpio. She was about speaking the truth, okay? And it's so funny because she had this beautiful voice, right? That you got the Taurus North Node, but she was like a rebel doing it. Mars in the 11th house in Libra, she's like, we're not keeping, we're speaking the truth. We want justice. We want people to know what's going on. But the Libra midheaven in the 11th house, oh yeah, she was known all over the world. Okay. I wonder if her older brother's still alive, but yeah, Mars in the 11th house, this is older siblings. And, with her 4 kids, she mentioned that the oldest son, Shane, and just so you know, the 4 kids are from all different fathers. Sinead, she was something else, man. Don't underestimate Sinead. So, what's really fascinating too, you guys, you're dealing with the the Taurus North Node and the Scorpio South Node. Okay, and this South Node here is conjunct, but it's not exact, but it's more conjunct than Neptune. So the Neptune is spiritually how you evolve in this lifetime, right? The Uranus is your soul seeking the freedom and liberation, breaking social norms, fracturing structures and systems. It's exactly what she did in the music industry. She was like, I'm not going to be some girly girl. I'm going to be this pretty woman that's crazy skinny with rocking a baldy, talking smack against the government, the Pope, politics, about the potato famine. Sinead was like, and so the South Node is kind of in a conjunction to the Neptune. So I think it opened her up to the beliefs in foreign lands. So that's why she was into the Rastafari religion and faith, and then changed to a Muslim. Okay? She was not that Catholic girl anymore. And she felt like a lot of the clergy and the priests were encouraging the abuse. They weren't correcting or saying anything to her mother. She alluded to that on the Dr. Phil interview, and he was like, well, so, you kind of see here, though, there was the dissolving of the mom, the dissolving of the relationship. When you have the moon in the 12th house, also, emotionally, she can be very psychic and intuitive and connected in the spiritual realm, right? Through her music. Scorpio moons can be very musical. Think about the pain and and how melodic her voice was. Remember, Neptune is creativity, imagination. She could have been a dynamic healer too. And I'm sure in many ways she did heal through her music. I'm sure all of her fans would say that. Her lyrics, her stories about her abuse. She said she had a song, Troy, that spoke about, that early on, in her first album. I don't remember that song, but I mean, just imagine, doing your chores and the lamp's a little crooked and your mom hauls off and whoops you and beats you. And she said it wasn't just like a little tap, tap spanking. The mother would be kicking her. And then she'd like get a phone call and be on the phone. And she said one time she literally had her foot like on her, I think her private area, stepping on her, and was on the phone like, oh, hey, how you doing? And da 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 da. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh. So, that's that Chiron wound. And it's, the Chiron wound is in a trine to Neptune. So I think what's so fascinating, that shows that Stockholm syndrome that she said to Dr. Phil, that all she wants to do is love and hug her mother. And if her mother was alive, she would just tell her that she was a bad daughter and that she loved her. Can you imagine that? No, she wasn't a bad daughter. But that's the Scorpio Neptune trining the Chiron, right? And even trining the Saturn and the moon. Like there was this like, I accept your restrictions and your authority, mom, and your abuse. It's a very psychological chart. And my heart goes out at prayers for her children. God bless you all. I mean, no disrespect. I think your mother was amazing and she suffered through so much pain. And I just send out prayers to her 3 children still remaining and any, family and loved ones, Sure they won't see this, but you never know because it is BigEAstrology. Anything's possible. Sinead she was legendary. And she was a beautiful soul who brought that Scorpio moon, that intensity in the voice and it's almost like you could feel her soul through the music crying out, healing her own wounds, trying to heal the wounds of her ancestors. Yeah, Saturn Pisces. Mom had mental issues. Sinead was bipolar. The mother was probably psychotic or bipolar, all this stuff. That's what the chart's showing, and I just, I don't know. A lot of famous charts and celebrity charts, they speak to you. And this one, it's like crying out, but this is what her soul chose. And I think she probably did learn these different lessons, but I don't know if she evolved to really ever have that true self-love and that connection to God source energy that she needed to heal her and to heal her wounds. So I just send love and prayers to her, in the spiritual realm, and I just wish her friends and family nothing but the best. I salute her as a great artist. I mean, she was a spark plug. You know what I mean? You got the Scorpio Moon, the Sag rising, Sag sun. You're like a warrior for with righteousness and truth. And that's who Sinead O'Conner was. Even through her pain and abuse and all that she went through, she really just wanted to heal and transform herself, protect her family, She was so respectful. She said, I won't speak on the abuse my siblings went through. That's their story to share. I mean, that's so noble. She had enough respect. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to speak for them. If they want to share what they went through, that's on them. I can only share what I went through. You don't get that from many people. This was a woman of great character and honor and just wanted nothing but peace, love, righteousness, and truth. And she saw a world and was born into a world that was, there was a lot of things were out of balance and there wasn't justice. Mercury and the moon, they're not necessarily friends. And so that's the logical mind and the emotional mind. And, you're dealing with the lunar mansion of like the Mars, Pluto, K2, Mercury. It was just very intense. And you saw that with the mom. And then I think you saw that, potentially with her and her relationships, I don't know the story about her 4 divorces, but anybody that's willing to get back on and try again, she was looking for that love and never really found it. Okay. So I feel like we've explored and done, justice. You see the blessings come through her, and that's the thing, the Capricorn, she was sharing her restrictive experiences as a child in her music, right? And the blessings came from that. I think it was cathartic and healing, but it also, through her singing, the 5th house is your 5 senses, survival. That's how she knew to survive, was through her words, to speak her truth, against the structures and the systems. And that Saturn opposing the Pluto, man, the power, and the Uranus, the power structures between like the father and mother. I mean, this was like destined for a divorce. And she said they were separated. They don't call it a divorce or whatever in Ireland. So, I guess it may be different legally. I don't know, but, that's pretty intense, how she explained that. So that's it. I wanted to share that. And Sinead O'Conner, rest in power. And thank you for your beautiful music. So as we wrap up the chart reading, BigEAstrology, breaking down another celebrity, please comment down below. Let me know who you'd like to see next. I'm really going to try to get back to doing more Whitney Houston, potentially Tupac and Biggie. But is Tupac even really dead? So, we'll see. Maybe I shouldn't touch that one. Maybe I'll save Tupac. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Tupac's chart and Coffee Talk. So if you want to look at Tupac's chart, you got to come to Coffee Talk. Saturday, September 16th, 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to look at Tupac Shakur's birth chart because I figured it out. And maybe it's not right for me to put it out in the public, okay? Because who knows if he's alive or dead. So many rumors nowadays, right? So, but I'm going to do JFK, Malcolm X, Bob Marley, okay? Christopher Wallace, Notorious Big, JFK Jr. MLK, I kind of already did MLK on Instagram, but I may officially do it on YouTube as well. But please share about Sinead O'Conner, some of her favorite songs. I know one thing was interesting. She said she felt like an imposter doing Prince's song, but she loved the song. But for her, it was, all singing it kind of like to her mom. But I think I saw in an interview somewhere where she said that, Prince wasn't that nice to her or something. And, hey, I'm going to do Prince's chart too soon. So I had a friend who actually dated Prince. So I know a little insight about him, even heard his voice on her answer machine. Shout out to Elizabeth. If you ever see this, my friend, I miss you. And yeah, that's it. Sinead O'Conner, celebrity birth chart reading. R.I.P. Thank you for the music, and I hope your soul is finally at rest and you're with your beloved son, Shane. All right, Eric Taylor, BigEAstrology, Sinead O'Conner birth chart. Later.